Welcome back, game developers. Today we're going to be adding on to our existing realistic footstep tutorial to make it even more realistic and customizable. If you missed the last footstep tutorial, I'll have a card at the top right of the screen right now where you can catch up. You should be able to hear right now when we walk and run. They're the same volume, which doesn't make much sense, as well as they sound a bit flat with no environmental feedback. Today we will fix that by adding a customizable system for volume of walking, running, as well as crouching. I will also teach you guys how to add a reverb with your footsteps to make them even more realistic. Also, thank you guys so much for 2,000 subscribers. I feel like I was just thanking you guys for 1,000 subscribers, and before I knew it, we were already at 2,000. So thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart. Last thing before we get started, if you'd like to support me, get all the files you're seeing today and from every other tutorial I've done on this channel, as well as see your name along with the other people here, I have a link for my Patreon down below. Alright, with that being said, let's get right into the tutorial. The first thing we're going to want to do is go to our first person folder, go into our anim notif, and go to our bp_footstep_notify. We can close all of these things. These are things I was tinkering with earlier. So you won't have them open, but go to your bp_footstep_notify, and the first thing we're going to want to do is go to our get surface function. Basically, I'm going to show what we're going to be changing today. So right here, instead of just playing these sounds for what they are, we're going to be making a system that dynamically changes them dependent on how fast we are moving. Basically whether we're crouching, running, or just walking regularly. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go up to the top left where it says functions, press the little plus icon, and let's name this function play sound at location, which is basically going to be a replace for playing the sound at location function that Unreal Engine has by default. If you want, you can name it something else to make it a little bit less confusing, but you should be able to tell the difference between which one is which. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to go off of this and immediately have an if branch because we're trying to check if we're running, walking, or crouching. So what we want to do is, in order to get that, we're going to get our player character because that's where all this information is stored. Out of this, we're going to get our character movement because that's the place where all this is stored as well, just for specifically our walking and running speeds. We're going to get our velocity, which is the value that is held by this. We're going to get that value, and in order to actually read what the velocity value is, since it's a vector, we're going to get the vector length. This is essentially just making a way for the vector in. So a vector is 3 different values. You can see it right here: X, Y, and Z. The vector length basically makes it so there are some calculations done to get the actual length or the magnitude of our velocity. Basically, we're able to tell how fast we're moving based on this vector length. So great, so let's go off of this, and let's go off of this condition actually, and let's do a greater than node. And we're basically just going to hook up the vector length straight just like that, and make this value whatever is a little bit faster than our speed. So for example, if we go to our first person folder, our blueprints, and our bp_first person character, if we go to our character movement and we can type in walk speed, you can see right here it's 200, and I know that when we're sprinting, our sprint speed is 350. So basically what we're going to check is we're going to check and see if we're greater than 200 because the regular walk speed is 200. So basically if we're greater than 200, what that means is that our character is currently sprinting. So you can adjust that accordingly, but what I'll do is I'll just make mine 255, so it's a little bit, actually we'll make it 230, so it's a little bit after you start walking regularly to sprinting, so there's a little bit of a transition. And basically what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get the actual play sound at location that Unreal gives us, not this one, that's the one that we're currently in right now. We're going to want to do the one that Unreal gives us, so play sound at location, and the audio one above. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get these 2 values. But to make it easier for us, what we can do is we can go to our function and create 2 inputs for us. Let's create 2 inputs. The first one is going to be sound, and we'll make the type sound base because this is where we can input our sounds to. And let's make the second one location, which again is very similar to this one. We're just going to be getting a vector that's going to be our location. Great, so let's compile and save that. And instead of doing this where we drag it across and make this a whole messy type of graph, let's just undo those. And what you can actually do is you can just go off of this and just type get sound, which will make it a little bit easier for us. And you can get location off of location. And what we'll do is we'll drag them out and then queue it so it's a little bit more straight. And we can just make it like so. Another important thing that we're going to want to do to make this actually what we want is to right click on this volume multiplier. So let's promote to variable, and we can go off like this, and oops, instead of making it a regular variable, to make it a little bit more efficient for us, let's promote it to a local variable, like so, just to make it so it's only in this function because we don't need it anywhere else. Let's make this, since this is the running branch and that's true, let's make this the run volume. Great, so now let's compile and save, and we can do it like so. Make sure it's all straight like that, and now this is basically what it's going to be for running. Now, if it's false, we're going to do another branch to check and see if we're walking versus crouching. So if you only have a running or walking in your game, running or walking mechanic in your game, then you're only going to want to do this true or this false, because if this is false, then that means you're just walking. But if you have a crouching mechanic, then you're going to go to this false and just check again one more time. And this isn't a bad like check. Some people say that doing two if statements is bad, but it's really not if you're just checking to see your velocity, which is already updating every second. So we'll go off of this and we'll just do the same exact thing. We're just going to see if it's less than or equal to this time, because we're going to check and see if we're walking. So basically this value is dependent on what your crouching speed is versus your walking speed. So let's go to our first person character again, and you'll see that our walk speed crouched is 100 and our regular walk speed is 200. So if we go to our BP underscore footstep notify, we want to basically make it so if it's a little bit less than or equal to a little bit above our crouching value. So since my crouching value is 100, what that means is I'll set this value to a 110, for example. And if it's less than or equal to 110, and that's true, that means that we are crouching, right? And if it's false, that means we are walking. So we'll do the same exact thing. We can copy this and paste it, and we can just change this to be a new variable. So we'll just go off of this, right click to promote local variable, and we will make it now our walk volume. And just so all of them are the same, we could do it like so. And let's make it queued out so it's all straight. This is going to go off of our false, because of the fact that this is when we're walking, because we're going to be faster than this value when we're walking, so it's gonna be false. And off of this true, we're going to do the same exact thing except for crouching. So we'll just bring this down and go to true. And I know it's a little bit counterintuitive. You would think that it would go the other way. You can always change this to greater than instead of less than or equal to. It's up to you. But this way, I think it's a little bit more apparent that when you're less than this value, what that means is you are crouching. So this value we're going to change, and we're going to make it now instead a local variable and show that this is a crouch volume. And we can just press Q to straighten it all out. And now let's actually go into our run volume, our walk volume, and our crouch volume to make sure we set them all to be good values. So in my other project, I set the run volume to be 2. I'm pretty sure I kept the walk volume at 1, and I set the crouch volume to be 0.7. You can of course change these values if you would like. Another suggestion that I have that you can definitely do is go off of this pitch multiplier, and basically you can change that to be if you want to, like 0.9, 1.1, and you can really make a randomized thing that makes it so it randomizes every single time. So it's a little bit more dynamic for your footsteps, so they don't always sound like the exact same. This is a little bit more complex. If you guys would like, I can add that in a future footstep tutorial, branching off of this one, and we can make that system. But for now, this is all you would really need. So we'll make sure that our crouch volume is 0.7, our walk volume is 1.0, and our run volume is 2.0. Great, so now we have the system all set up. What we'll do is we'll go back to our get surface, and we will get rid of all of these 3 basically. Once we've gotten rid of all of these 3, we're going to want to make sure that we basically play our new play sound at location. So let's just play sound at location, and now you'll see there's one that says audio and one that's under call function. We want the one under call function. That's the one we just created together. So what we'll do is we'll connect that to our location. We can basically do this multiple times. So let's just do that again, and connect these all to our location. Also, one last thing before I forget, let's go back into our function and let's get a return node. Great, so now that we have a return node, we can just plug all these in right to the return node so that the value is getting returned. Even though there's nothing really to return, this is good practice. What it basically does is it just makes it so it would automatically go here to this return node just in case there was something, just so you don't forget about that. Great, so now that we have that, let's make sure that this is all compiled and saved. And now you want to make sure you put your sound cues to what you would regularly want them to be. So we're going to plug in the 2 here, the 3 here. So usually for my 2 surface type num, it would be the wood footstep. So let's look for wood footstep Q, and number 3 would be the concrete footstep Q. Great, so now we have that, and I will show you what that does now. So if we go into our regular world, and let's make sure we save everything. If you walk, you'll see it has one sound, one volume. When we run, it's louder, clearly louder, and when we crouch, there's no volume, but that's because I never actually set up the crouch volume. So what we should do right now is we should go to our first person, and this will work for you if you already set up your crouch walking forward footstep notifies, but I'll show you what I mean. So basically our logic works that we just created together, but all you have to do is you have to go to your anim class. If you're following along, go to your ABP and go to your locomotion and your crouch. Whatever your forward crouch walk is, you want to double click on that one, and let's dock it so we can see it right here. And let's just make sure that on the, let's look on the right footstep. So as soon as it takes that right step, we're just going to add a notify track, or we already have one. We can just right click, add notify, and you want to add the BP underscore footstep notify. And then again, right here, BP underscore footstep notify. And then, so we can see it goes right there, I would say is more like where the footstep is, and then right there is where the footstep is. So great. So now if we go in and if we test it, you can see that if we crouch, it's a little bit lower because obviously when you're crouching, your volume of your footsteps are not the same as when you're just regularly walking. Great. So now our system completely works, where when we run, it's very loud, versus when we walk, it's regular, versus when we crouch, it's very low. Cool. So now let's add a little bit of reverb so that when we are walking through something like this little tunnel over here, it will have a reverb effect that will make it very realistic. So we'll do that right now. So then when you're walking through this, we can have this echo effect that makes your footsteps sound even more realistic. So let's do that right now. So for the simplicity of this video, I will show you one workaround that is very simple. All we have to do is let's grab our material that we use to walk on normally. So let's just grab our wood footsteps and let's just bring them in. So you would be walking on them right here. So let me just go in and make sure that they're all on the ground where we're walking. Okay. So what we'll do is we will make it so when we walk into this, there is a little bit of an echo. So the way to do that is to go to this little plus right here, go for all actors, and let's type audio, and you'll get an audio volume just like so. And if you press G, you might not see it for a second, but if you press G, you go into the game view, or not into the game view, which will show this. And we can change the X, Y, and Z size. So let's change the X size, the Y size, so it's a little bit more of what we're looking for. So let's grab this one and let's make it a little bit less Y in the Y direction. So let's just add it like it would be with a hallway like so, and let's just make it so it goes right inside and it ends right there. So what we could do is we can make it go more in that X direction, and it'll go out front as well, but it doesn't really matter. This is just for testing purposes, just so you guys can see what I'm trying to say. We'll make it go a little bit higher as well, just so there's no complications, and then we'll just duplicate it and we will make it so it goes on this side as well, 90 degrees, and so we have it on this side like so. Great. So now we have both sides. What we want to do is go to one of the audio volumes. We'll have to do it on both, but let's go to one for now. Let's go to settings right underneath reverb. Reverb is another word for basically like echo, and let's go to reverb effect. For now, basically you have a bunch of these different effects that we can kind of tinker with that Unreal provides in its engine resources already. So if we want to, we can use one like bathroom, auditorium. These all have different echo levels, but let's do one like there should be one around like small hallway or something of the sort. So we'll just look up hall and see the different halls. Let's just do hallway, and so we can grab that, and we can obviously change the volume or the fade time. So we'll have that one, and we'll grab the other one right over here so we can display a little bit of a difference. So this is the audio volume 1 versus the audio volume 2 right here, which I will make sure doesn't overlap just so we don't have a little bit of confusion. This one will have a different reverb effect. Let's do maybe bathroom or something like that, just so you can see, and we'll make the volume a little bit louder. Let's make it like 1. And so now, also this little priority thing right here, if they were overlapping, the one with the higher priority, so if I made it 1, that higher priority would be the one that plays instead of the lower priority. But okay, so now that we know this, let's go over this area, and you'll see that if we walk in and walk on this footstep, you can hear that when we walk, there are different levels of reverb. So you can see right here, not as much, but if we walk in this area, it sounds like we are walking in a larger bathroom of some sort. And you can hear that's crouching versus walking and running. So when it's like this, you can obviously see some difference in reverb. So what we'll do is, just so you can get the full experience, we'll make it so this whole thing is one reverb, and let's make it so it covers a little bit more area, just so we can test it fully. And we'll do it like this, and it'll just cover that entire area. And basically what you'll see is that throughout there will be one level of reverb. So let's just go back in, and now we'll have both of our systems. Where now there's reverb to make our footsteps sound more realistic, as well as generally different volumes for running versus walking versus crouching. And if you feel like the time it takes to fade in is like too long, you can always change that as well by going to your audio volume. Let's go to your audio volume, and you can see right here the fade time. If you lower it, it will take less time to fade in, so that's also recommended if you would like to. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you guys wouldn't mind, leaving a like and subscribing would help me a ton. And remember, if you guys do want to get these files, they are available, as well as all of the other files on this channel, in my Patreon down below. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye everyone.